Hey guys, tonight we're sinking into warm golden sand beneath the vineyards of ancient Phrygia, just as the twilight sky is beginning to blush lavender over the hills. You're not a peasant or a wandering bard. Tonight, you're King Midas himself. You recline in a cushioned marble courtyard, one hand lazily swishing wine around in a shallow dish, the other gently scratching a lion behind its velvety ear. Life is good. You're rich, your robes shimmer like sunlit honey, and there's an all-you-can-eat fig buffet beside your bed. But don't get too cozy, because, spoiler alert, you're about to ruin your entire weekend with one of the worst party favors in mythological history. You'll have a guest who smells like goat and bad decisions. You'll make a wish that no sane person would make sober, and you'll probably turn your breakfast into a paperweight. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know where you're listening from and what time it is. I love seeing how far and wide this little sleepy kingdom stretches. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're Midas, and the spring wind carries the heavy perfume of blooming vines and olive oil. Your palace is carved into the hillside like a golden loaf, its walls lined with mosaics of gods who clearly never learned personal boundaries. Servants bustle. Music drifts lazily from lyres. You're halfway through a cup of pomegranate wine when the guards barge in and say, Your Grace? There's a satyr in the hedge maze. Naturally, you go look. There, tangled in bougainvillea and muttering to himself in what might be drunken iambic pentameter, is a portly figure with goat legs, vine leaves in his beard, and the unmistakable glint of divinity. He smells like theater and fermented honey. This, you eventually realize, is Silenus, the tutor and drinking buddy of Dionysus himself. Now, most people would panic. Ancient etiquette books generally suggest not interfering with gods or their inebriated entourage. But you, King Midas, generous, flamboyant, perhaps mildly overconfident, you decide to host the satyr. You command a feast. Silenus eats 3 roast ducks, sings bawdy songs, and passes out in your rose garden. For 10 days and nights, this continues. Storytelling, music, questionable poetry. You laugh, you drink, you feel wise. Historians still argue whether this episode was meant to test your hospitality or just amuse the gods. Either way, when Dionysus eventually shows up to collect his woozy goat friend, he's so touched by your generosity that he offers you a reward. Anything. Ask, and it shall be yours. And that's where things go sideways. Because, for reasons that baffle scholars and therapists alike, you smile and say, "Let everything I touch turn to gold." Dionysus raises an eyebrow, the kind of expression that says, "Sure, but I'm not explaining this to the insurance adjusters." With a lazy nod, he grants your wish. You wake the next morning with a strange tingling in your fingertips, a sense of possibility, and absolutely no clue that breakfast is about to become a solid metal catastrophe. You stretch, you yawn, you reach for a plum. Clink. The fruit hits the table with the weight of a cannonball. You blink, confused, and tap it again. Gold, gleaming, inedible, probably worth a fortune, unless you're hungry. Still, maybe it's a fluke. You try bread, cheese, a jug of water. Everything turns instantly to heavy, radiant gold. Toast? Nope. Goblet of wine? Solid. Even the tablecloth stiffens into a metallic sheet when you lean forward. By now you're starting to sweat. This isn't alchemy. It's a buffet disaster. You shuffle around the room, bumping into things that go clang instead of crinkle. You try to shake a servant's hand in desperation. He freezes, shimmering mid-curtsy, his eyes wide with "oh no." Even the pet cat won't come near you. And then, your daughter runs into the room. You shout, "Wait!" But it's too late. She throws her arms around you. She turns to gold in your arms. Now your golden palace feels like a tomb. The air turns dry. Even the bird song seems to mute itself, as if nature herself is holding her breath. Fun fact, the myth of King Midas may have been loosely inspired by a real Phrygian king who lived in the 8th century BCE. Archaeologists uncovered a burial mound they associate with Midas, containing elaborate feasting remains. No golden family members were found, fortunately, but the idea of greed being a curse? That was already ancient even then. But you, dear listener, are now a walking statue factory. And you're going to need help. You don't sleep that night. How could you? Every corner of your palace glints with the garish reminder of your mistake. The sun creeps over the horizon, and instead of a warm glow, it casts cold reflections off golden curtains, golden chairs, and a golden bird that tried to land on your hand before promptly turning into garden ornamentation. You shuffle barefoot down a hallway, careful not to brush against the columns. Your stomach groans, but food is no longer edible, only valuable in the most useless way. Your servants have fled or hide, whispering about cursed kings and divine punishments. Honestly, can you blame them? You try everything, wrapping your hands in cloth, using spoons, barking at your reflection in a silver basin like it might help. Nothing works. The golden touch is absolute, merciless, and aggressively impractical. You wander your gardens, thinking, trying not to cry. It's hard, though, especially when the roses crumble into crinkly metal petals beneath your feet. A rabbit darts past, and you instinctively reach out, only to pull back in horror. And then there's your daughter. She stands. If that word can be applied to someone currently frozen in a moment of joy, beside the fountain. You try not to look at her too long. It's like gazing at the most beautiful statue ever carved, one that happens to contain your own heartbreak. You begin to yell, at the sky, at Dionysus, at whatever cosmic call center handles divine wish reversals. Birds scatter. The golden trees, mute and heavy, shed no leaves. The wine god is not answering his scrolls. So, you do what any panic-stricken ancient king would do. You pack a travel cloak, commission a very nervous scribe to document your will, just in case, and you set out barefoot and humbled to find a cure. Historians still argue whether Midas's journey was mythologized as a form of ancient moral instruction, like don't wish for immortality, or don't steal from gods. Golden touch regret tales were common motifs. But this one? It has wine, regret, accidental sculpture, and one particularly chatty river. You start by trudging toward the Oracle of Delphi. Everyone in ancient Greece knew that if something weird was happening, talking animals, crop failure, or turning your family into solid gold, you went to Delphi. The priestesses there were known for delivering vague advice in poetic riddles while high on volcanic fumes. Perfect. The walk takes days. You camp under stars, eating nothing, drinking only what you can lap directly from streams like a desperate jewel-encrusted raccoon. Occasionally, you catch your reflection in ponds and grimace. You look less like a ruler and more like a regretful magician who botched a magic trick and lost his audience. When you finally arrive at Delphi, you collapse dramatically on the temple steps. You're dusty, hungry, and completely fed up with precious metals. The priestess listens to your tale with a practiced nod and eventually whispers a solution. Seek the river god, Pactolos. Wash your hands in his stream. That's it. No dramatic trial, no musical riddle. Just wash your hands. So you set off again. The river Pactolos isn't exactly around the corner. It lies in Lydia, a rich land famous for its minerals and, as it happens, its oddly metallic-sounding water. It's the kind of place poets like to romanticize and merchants like to dig. Days pass. You grow leaner. Your golden robes begin to tear. You begin to think you smell like regret and wine-soaked goat fur. Finally, you reach the river, and it glistens. It glistens like a treasure chest cracked open beneath the sun. You kneel cautiously and dip your hands into the cool, rushing water. At first, nothing. Then, relief. That strange tingling vanishes. You grab a leaf. It stays green. You touch a pebble. It stays pebble-colored. You fall forward into the stream, laughing, sobbing, splashing like a toddler who just escaped a cursed escape room. According to legend, this moment marks the origin of the gold dust deposits in the Pactolos River. Indeed, the river was historically known for its alluvial gold. Some believe the myth arose because of the river's wealth. Locals needed an origin story, and what better explanation than a regretful king literally washing away his greed. You stay by the river for a while, resting, probably yelling, "It's normal again," to passing fish. When you return to Phrygia, everything is still gold. But now you're free to undo what you can. You rush to your daughter. You touch her. Nothing changes. You try again, tears rolling down your cheeks. And slowly, her cheeks warm, her fingers flex, her eyes blink open. You don't say anything. You just hug her for a very long time. And as the sun dips behind the palace walls, casting its ordinary light over the land, you silently vow, no more wishes, no more shortcuts, and certainly no more satyrs passed out in the rosebeds. You try to return to life as it was, but it's hard to enjoy luxury when you've been burned by it, literally in some cases. The golden bathtub is gone. The servants are cautious. Your daughter won't even let you near the herb garden without checking your hands first. Still, word spreads. People whisper about your journey to the river. Some say you battled spirits, others that you bribed the gods. A few think you just really needed a long bath. Whatever the gossip, one thing is certain: King Midas has changed. But not everything settles so easily. You start having dreams. In them, you're holding a loaf of bread, and it crumbles into gold dust just as you bite it. You wake up sweating. Sometimes, you think your fingertips still shimmer, so you decide to get out, again. This time, it's not about undoing a curse. It's about answers. And maybe peace. You want to know, why did Dionysus grant that wish so easily? Why didn't someone stop you? And more importantly, how do other mortals deal with divine disasters? You leave your palace in the hands of your advisors, who are mostly thrilled if we're being honest, and set off for a wandering journey across the ancient world. It's like a gap year, except instead of studying pottery or drama, you're looking for spiritual detox and maybe a therapy oracle. Your first stop? Mount Helicon, home to the Muses. Surely the goddesses of poetry and wisdom can help you make sense of your weird, wish-gone-wrong life. You climb the winding paths of the mountain, past shepherds' wild goats, and what might be a pickpocket disguised as a flute player. The air is crisp. The view stretches like a scroll unrolling over the world. You reach the shrine, only to find it closed for renovations. Something about a lightning strike and overly enthusiastic festival last season. Instead, a wandering priest suggests another route. Go find the wise river gods. They've seen everything. So you head toward the river Meander. Yes, that's where the word meander comes from. It's an actual river in Anatolia, and it winds through the land like a toddler scribbling on a map. You follow its curves. watching it double back on itself so many times that you start suspecting it's deliberately messing with your sense of direction. Eventually, you come across a small shrine tucked between reeds. The guardian, a man who claims to be half fish, though he looks mostly tired, welcomes you with a shrug and some wet dates. You explain your story again. The touch, the regret, the river cure, the ears. Wait, the ears haven't come up yet. We'll get to those. The river spirit sighs. Mortals always want treasure, then they don't know what to do with it. You asked for gold, not happiness. You nod, rubbing your temple. I know. But what would you have wished for? The river god thinks. More fish that don't talk back. You leave with that piece of advice swirling in your head like leaves in a stream. But even as you search for inner wisdom, something else is beginning to shift. Back home, rumors of your transformation start to circulate. Some say you've been possessed by a new spirit. Others say you're seeking revenge. One poet writes that you've begun to grow long, fuzzy ears, like a donkey. And unfortunately, that last one isn't entirely wrong. You don't notice it at first. A strange itch behind your head. Then your hats stop fitting. Servants start to glance sideways. One day, while washing your face in a calm pool, you see them. Two soft, furry ears sticking out from under your circlet, flopping gently in the breeze. You scream, birds scatter. Your donkey ears, yes, actual donkey ears, wiggle sympathetically. Historians still argue whether the donkey ears were punishment for Midas judging a musical contest between gods. According to some versions, Midas once claimed that Pan, the reed pipe god, played better than Apollo. Apollo, being a god of light, music, and zero tolerance for losing, rewarded Midas with ears better suited for barnyards than ballads. You returned to Phrygia in a state of mild panic, head wrapped in scarves, blaming the wind, the sun, and that time you fell in a river. Your advisors say nothing. Your daughter raises an eyebrow but lets it slide. Only your barber knows the truth. And bless his soul, he tries to keep it secret. He really does. But one day, overwhelmed by the weight of forbidden knowledge and possibly a little too much wine, the poor man runs out into a field, digs a hole, shouts into it. King Midas has donkey ears, then covers it up and walks away, satisfied. Unfortunately, reeds begin to grow in that very spot, and when the wind blows through them, the reeds whisper, Midas has donkey ears. Midas has donkey ears. Nature itself becomes a gossip. You try to ignore the ears. At first, you pretend nothing's changed. You hold court as usual, listening to petitions about grain shortages and marriage disputes while wearing increasingly elaborate headgear. You favor towering turbans, oversized laurels, even a decorative birdcage hat you claim is inspired by Athena. People nod politely. No one mentions the muffled flapping sound when you turn your head, but you know. And worse, they know. And worst of all, the reeds keep whispering. Every time you walk by that field, it's like the entire plant kingdom is in on the joke. Midas has donkey ears, they sigh, and he still thinks he's hiding them. You'd love to move on, really. But it's hard to assert royal dignity when a stiff breeze can literally expose your secrets. Eventually, you try humor. One night at a feast, you make a toast to secrets carried on the wind and to barbers who should really consider therapy. The room goes silent. Then someone chuckles. Then another. And just like that, the air shifts. It's freeing in a way. Your subjects don't respect you less for the ears. If anything, they find you more relatable, less like a gleaming statue of arrogance, more like a person who once made a bad wish and now has a face like a barnyard puppet. You start leaning into it. You sponsor a festival in honor of Pan. Goat legs, flutes, and all. You serve olives shaped like donkey ears. You even commission a mosaic in the palace, showing you with your ridiculous golden robe, drinking with Salinas, and sporting a perfectly detailed pair of fuzzy ears. Visitors find it hilarious. Children try to tug on the tiles. Some of your advisors think you've finally lost it. But your daughter? She just smiles and shakes her head. At least you're not turning things into statues anymore. Still, part of you aches for closure. You've lost dignity, sleep, and several hats. You need to do something symbolic, something that marks the end of this golden, donkey-eared chapter. So one morning, you rise early and slip out of the palace. No guards, no procession, just you and the wind. You carry nothing but a satchel of bread and a carved wooden lyre you never quite learned to play. You wander into the hills, where the reeds grow thick and the memories grow even thicker. You sit by the whispering patch and say nothing for a while. Eventually, you hum a tune, something simple, something off-key, and the reeds stop whispering. They still move, still bend with the breeze, but the words are gone. The gossip has passed. The world perhaps has grown bored of your weirdness, or maybe it just decided to forgive you. There's a moment of quiet, thick and golden in the light of the morning sun. You feel, finally, ordinary, and it's beautiful. Fun fact, the legend of Midas's ears was a late addition to his mythos, appearing centuries after the original Golden Touch tale. It likely served as a moral about vanity and public shame, but over time, it became something gentler. A reminder that everyone has their donkey-eared days. You walk back to the palace lighter than before. You still wear the ears. You still get the occasional giggle from passing children. But no longer do you flinch when you catch your reflection in bronze. And with that shift in spirit comes a change in rule. You start focusing on more practical things. Irrigation for farmlands, fairer taxes, building a library filled with stories, including your own. You even start a new tradition, a monthly open forum where citizens can anonymously shout their complaints into a ceremonial hole in the ground. A little public catharsis with slightly less gossip risk. You never see Dionysus again, though sometimes, when the wine flows freely and the music drifts lazily over the hills, you imagine he's watching, amused, maybe even proud. And in a twist that surprises no one, your barber shop becomes one of the most popular in the region. People line up for a trim, hoping to glimpse the infamous field of reeds. He hires assistants, starts a side business in whisper-resistant hats. Historians still argue whether Midas ever truly found redemption, or just got very good at public relations. But if you ask the people of Phrygia, they'll tell you this. He was the king with the golden heart, the donkey ears, and the wisdom to laugh at both. The years roll forward like lazy clouds over Mount Tmolus, and your name, once a punchline whispered among reeds, settles into something softer. A lesson, perhaps. A lullaby. You've stopped chasing divine approval and started tending to more earthly matters. Growing orchards, rebuilding temples, establishing schools where children learn both poetry and how not to ask gods for magical powers. You still have the ears, of course. They're part of you now, as familiar as your sandals or your increasingly gray beard. You don't hide them anymore. In fact, you wear a simple circlet that leaves them fully exposed. Foreign dignitaries blink when they first see you, unsure if they're being pranked. But then, they hear you speak, warmly, self-deprecatingly, like a man who once turned breakfast into bullion and lived to joke about it. And the ears are forgotten. You take up music. not well. Your lyre playing sounds like a goat trying to reason with a harp, but you enjoy it. You play by firelight, your daughter humming along, and even the palace cats curl up beside you, like you've finally earned their respect. Sometimes, during festivals, people ask you to tell the story again. The one about the wish, the touch, the river, the ears. You always act reluctant, groan and wave your hand as if you're too old to bother. But then you begin, voice low and rhythmic, and soon the children lean forward, eyes wide, waiting for the part where you accidentally turn your sandals to gold. You don't dramatize the regret. You don't hide the ridiculous parts. You let the tale breathe, as all myths should. And slowly, you notice something strange. People stop asking about the wish. They start asking about what happened after. The journey, the river, the way you washed it all away, not just with water, but with humility and humor and the willingness to be a walking contradiction, donkey ears and all. Your advisors, once anxious about your reputation, now use your story in speeches. Even Midas got wiser, they'll say, when someone proposes a risky law. You're quoted in taverns, scribbled in the margins of school texts, embroidered into temple tapestries beside verses like, "Gold cannot feed a family." You never remake the mistake, but sometimes, on quiet mornings, you visit the field of reeds. They still rustle, but not with secrets. Now it's just wind, pure, clean wind, moving through tall green stalks. You sit there, eyes closed, letting the breeze wash over your face like a lullaby from the earth itself. You've grown to love silence. And as the sun rises behind you, painting the sky in gentle streaks of amber and lavender, you think, not about curses or regrets, but about how strangely lucky you are to have had your weekend so thoroughly, hilariously ruined. Because if it hadn't been for that ridiculous wish, you might never have learned how to live. So now, with the story winding to a close, you lean back a little deeper into your pillow, your limbs relaxing like softened wax under the gentle pull of gravity. Let the last bits of Midas's absurd, golden, donkey-eared weekend melt into the background like a fading harp chord. The palace grows quiet once more. The mosaic tiles cool beneath your bare feet, the scent of crushed time and ancient dust lingering faintly in the corridor air. You move slowly now, not because you're tired, but because the moment invites stillness. You've wandered far, through rivers and regrets, laughter and loss, and somehow come out the other side lighter than when you began. The reeds don't whisper anymore, they just sway, back and forth, back and forth. No secrets, just sound. You've heard enough for tonight, haven't you? Let your breath ease into its own rhythm. Inhale, like dipping your fingers in cool, clear water. Exhale, like letting go of something too heavy to carry another day. The edges of the room soften. Your thoughts blur into one another like ink in ancient parchment. And the last thing you hear is your own quiet, golden laugh. Not the kind that startles you awake. The kind that hums beneath everything. The kind that means you're okay. You are okay. You don't need to fix anything else right now. Just rest. You've earned it. Good night, sleepy king. May your dreams be quiet. May your wishes be ordinary. May your ears be exactly as they are.